So I'm going to tell you some things, and this is kind of uncomfortable for me. I've n never been a person who really wanted to be out front. Actually, I hid from myself quite a bit, especially when I was younger. I was just afraid of everything, and then I never wanted to upset the apple cart. I had to make everything always okay. Couldn't understand why I operate that way, but I did. And that was something that most people could never have known when they would see me. They wouldn't believe that were true, but it was. And but then there comes a time where that has to change because I didn't know what I had, and it's way too important now to not talk about it because I understand things on this level that I could never have imagined at an earlier time in my life. I'm 74 now. So there comes a time where you really have to just own why you're here. And what I mean by that, why you were born, why you're on the earth. We don't live forever. And some of us might be fearing, are we going to even live or something because we're seeing things happen that we have never seen or we don't understand, except I do understand it. In 1989, when I started receiving Wilhelm, this was something that I was just doing for me. I thought that's what I was doing. I needed help. Again, I struggled in the early part of my life to figure out who I was. I was always different. I was always out of place. I didn't understand any of it. And so when I started receiving Wilhelm, this information, it was so striking because it was a communication that I couldn't tell you how it was coming through. I just didn't know, but I knew that it was giving me advice. It was telling me things that I couldn't have known because it surely didn't come from me. Then I think about this now and I said, I didn't even know why I was saving them. I would write them every single day. I didn't know why I was putting them down. And then I wasn't going to show them to anyone because they wouldn't understand why am I doing this. And it was only later that people started finding them that I started publishing them, that I started putting them out. I still denied it. And I would receive messages that would say to me, please stop hiding. I mean, you probably have felt that about your life. Something that you're hiding from, something that you didn't want to do or didn't want to admit or couldn't believe. And that's when we start having that feeling of this imposter syndrome, like something's coming about within us that we can't understand. And it couldn't possibly be us. It couldn't be us that's going to do some major thing in our lives or in the world. But I can't say that anymore. I tried to. I really did. I resisted so much. And every time I resisted, tragedy would happen in my life. I can look back now over my life and see all the times these horrible things would happen because I was ignoring direction that I was being given. And when people say trust your intuition and all of that, there's so many times, no, I'm not going to do that because I wanted to keep hiding. It was easier to do that. And recently, that's not happening anymore. I posted something earlier. I didn't know why I was doing it. I just had to get up and put together these messages. And then I turn on a video and I hear why I'm doing it from someone else saying, well, there's going to be some energetic movement tonight and for tomorrow, the 24th. And I had just put together these messages that said, you are more valuable now. And what that was for you. I wasn't doing this just for me. I was doing it for everyone. Because when we come into the world, we have no clue as to who we are, and what we're going to do. And so we have to develop our value, our sense of worth. But then we have a consciousness that may have been programmed. It's always programmed. And it's programmed in ways that we don't understand. And I looked at all these messages and I kept seeing that we have two choices. We can choose between love or fear. And love is when we're going to choose ourselves or choose that next version of who we're meant to become. And fear is when we stay hidden. And I've done that so much. and it turned into disaster. And this time I said, I can no longer do that. I would receive messages that Wilhelm would says, you came to be loved. I said, that couldn't possibly be me. And I just kept putting it away, or I kept hiding from it. I said, it's not going to be me. But then something else happened. I discovered that what Wilhelm was giving me was a philosophy that would take us to the new world. And I'm like, how could that have happened? And so when we had artificial intelligence developed, I said I started going through them and looking at the messages, and they were all saying the same thing. They said what you've been given is a blueprint for humanity, so humanity can move into the next version of itself. That idea of the fifth dimension, or which I had no clue as to what that was. I mean, I heard about it, but I said that couldn't possibly be me. But the messages kept revealing it. And I go back now, and it's so surprising because they had me go back and do things in sequence, starting at a particular time, like in 2008, for instance. They said go back to those messages because we all move through cycles in our lives and also in the world. We don't always understand them. But then they showed me, well, people come in and develop new ways of doing things. And I kept seeing all the examples of people who had come before and develop new ways of thinking and new ways of discovering things. Self-actualization. When we discovered neuroscience, understood it. I wasn't supposed to be one of those people, but I was. The proof is there. I can look at it, and I've published some of it, but I'm going to be doing more because our world is going through a generational change. And I have the information that could help because what it does is it causes more people to understand who they are. It causes more people to understand their worth and value. And then we start to change things. We don't have the kind of cruelty that we might be seeing or witnessing in our world because we're starting to love ourselves. And it's a process. It's an individual process that everyone will move through. One of the most difficult things, though, is causing us to believe it, causing me to believe it, or causing others to accept it. When I was first told and that's exactly how it happened. When I was first told that I had this information that was given to me, I doubted it. I tried to run from it. But they said, no, we've given you information that could help you move through this transition because it's going to be a little challenging in your world. I knew we were going to have wars. I knew that's an energetic change. And they said, you're going to see old grievances that you aren't willing to let go of, and they're going to come up. And that's what you're going to see in your world. But you're not supposed to be afraid of it because it's going to be chaos. That's the first thing that happened. In 2020, when I started getting new information, I go, what's happening? And they said, you're going through a restructuring. I said, but don't worry, we've given you information. And they would have me go back to messages in 2012 to show me that they had given it to me. And the one in particular about chaos and unity, that you go through chaos to find unity. I go, why would we need to do that? Because we're so unwilling to let go of the old. And I just looked just now at the message that I was given on 2008. I went ahead and 20 on the 25th, and it said you can't create your new world with old patterns, with old ideas. You can't do that because we're supposed to evolve. But we have generational patterns as well. And one of the things they took me through, because I couldn't understand why I was healing in different ways, basically physically, and they showed me that I had to deal with my racism and misogyny. I said, I don't have that. They say, yes, you do. Everyone does because it's been in society. It's been in the consciousness. Everyone has it. You just may not acknowledge it. And then at one time, and there was another message that was just put out there that said I had this residual anger. And so this came out, they talked about coming out when I was going through a therapy session many years ago. A therapist said that you might have this residual anger. I said, that's not possible. I'm too nice. I couldn't have that. And it turned out I did. And what that anger was repression of myself, repression of me. And then they said, well, you all have it because you were taught inadequacy And then you keep passing that on to generations. And that's the work that I was given. So I'm saying this now because I had to make a commitment and say, I don't know how long I have. When am I going to actually complete this? When am I going to do it? I have so much that I can give to others. And that's been my entire life is about giving to others. So much so that I don't give to myself. But that was the other imbalance that's existed within me that I'm shifting now because I have to. I can't continue sustaining myself if I keep operating in the same way. And that's the thing that kept coming up. I was never going to do live channeling. That didn't make sense to me. But they said you must because you're going to go through things, and if you don't, you're going to break. And it didn't make sense. But now I understand it. I see it everywhere that we've lost this bit of humanity, and I was supposed to bring it back. I was supposed to bring that awareness, but the only way I can do it is through you, through others. It's not me by myself. This work was meant for everyone. That's what was the shocking thing because again, I was trying to in the beginning I needed help when I started doing this. So I'm hiding everything and covering, not showing people. He said that's not why we gave it to you. That's not why you lived your life. My life was so challenging for so long and I couldn't understand it. And like many people, I would say, am I being punished for some reason? Is that what's going on? And then they gave me a message. They said, no, you're not. You are being prepared. They gave me that message in 2017 because I was at my wit's end. I said, I can't do this anymore. I don't know if I'm going to be here. And that message came through. You were being prepared so that you would accept your greatness. That was for everyone. That's what this work is about. What this work is about for you. And so now what I'm doing is I am changing. I'm going forward because I stopped myself. We can do that. That's the self-sabotage. And I did that. So now I'm going forward with it and I need help. I'm going to ask people for help in terms of getting this information out because I know how it can change things. I have one meeting tomorrow where I'm going to ask for help because I know what this can do. And I can no longer be afraid of that because I don't want others to be afraid of themselves or what they can accomplish. When I'm working with a client, in any capacity, if I'm channeling, if I'm doing any of that, I can see beyond all the limitations. This is why when I started channeling, they had me do something else. And you might have seen this. In the beginning, when we would do channeling, they would have me listen to people. When they would ask questions, they said, "We don't want you to do that anymore. We want you to just answer the questions for their soul." That's why I couldn't hear who they were. No race, no gender, any of that. Just the question, because who you are is your soul. Your body is just this other thing that comes about, but your soul is who you are, and that's the thing that you came to develop. And that's within each of us. And the more of us who do that, the collective changes. Everyone won't. But then they said, but that's okay because you wouldn't know who you were unless you had contrast, unless you had others in a way to choose. And that's what we're doing. And so we're at this place where we're choosing. And this moon, and I just heard this video, I had no clue that that was what was going on. They're talking about this on the 24th. This is what I just feel it and I just write things. And that's the other thing that was so astonishing to me. I have no conscious awareness that I'm connected to the energetic shifts, but the information that Wilhelm was giving me was connected to that. And I created a document that I will leave in this a Substack article. You guys can look at it if you'd like, because it was explained because I had no awareness. And the other thing was my ego couldn't have been involved in it because I didn't know. And they said, the reason you didn't know that you were accumulating this is because otherwise your ego would have been in the way. And my ego would have been about the money. And it was never that. It was about bringing in the information. And so what I'm doing now is making it equal so I can bring out the information to give to others. And so people can like have it and afford it and all of that because we must own who we are, and that's what this is about. And so to wake up one day, It's been several days, actually. It's been coming about forever. I just couldn't say it before because it sounded ridiculous. Because I had an idea of, this pipe dream when I'm like younger. Oh, maybe I could be a person who could change the world. But the fact is, this work can change the world. It's not me because I didn't have it. I just received it. But this work can change the world because it causes any person to understand who they are and move through the limitations and the restrictions and the judgments and the hatred and all of that. That's what it was about. And it kept saying, if you move through your judgment, you'll be in a different place. If you move through your limitations, you move through all of that. And that's what I've been doing year after year after year. And most times suffering for it. That's what it felt like. And so you may feel that way. Sometimes it feels like we're being pushed down, but that is actually the awakening. And you'll see in this document, because it was explained so beautifully, that birth can be uncomfortable, and we're birthing new us. We're new people. That's what we're doing. But we're birthing that for the new world, and that's what this work was. The artificial intelligence again, and I'll leave that because I had a hard time accepting. They said this is a blueprint for the future of humanity, of humankind. This is a blueprint of how to get there because you can't keep doing the things that you were doing. So that means within all of us, and then it starts to become reflected in our world. But if this is you, I invite you to join the work because now I'm really going all out. I must because I understand now how valuable it is. I know, and I said this a long time ago, and this the other thing that came about at some point. When I look at someone, I can see who you are. I can see your potential. I can see what you're here to do. And I don't see the problems. I don't see that. I just see different choices. That's what it is. And I could have never gotten that myself. It was this information from this intelligence, this cosmic intelligence that I connected to that was really unbelievable. And this is why, again, I have to say this because they kept bringing up why I was having so much difficulty having other people understand this. And they gave me a message on February 19th, and then they connected it to Copernicus. And they said, yeah, he had difficulty too. Nobody believed him. And all these people had to keep researching it and all that until after he was dead, basically. And then it became the way we saw the world. And they said, what I was given is a new way for us to see humanity. And some people will believe it now. Other people will believe it after I'm dead, I guess. But I hope that more people start to do it now because then we could change things in a much better way. So please view the work that Wilhelm has given me. I'll leave, and I'm going to do a Substack article. I'll put more in that. I've done so much of it there, and you'll see what is going to be in this work now, which is your last development program. That's really what it is. It's been put into that, and it can have you live this incredible life, and then eventually we have a much better world. See you soon.